Welcome to Bible Stories for Kids TV, where God's words comes alive.
A long, long time ago,
The Israelites were in trouble again. They had stopped listening to God, and now the Philistines were ruling over them. The people were sad, tired, and afraid. But even when God's people forget Him, He never forgets them. He had a plan, a special plan, and it began with a woman who couldn't have children.
one quiet day while she was all alone,
A bright angel appeared. His clothes shimmered like the sun. The woman gasped and fell to her knees.
"Don't be afraid," the angel said kindly.
You will have a baby boy. He will be special, chosen by God. But you must never cut his hair. He will be a Nazirite, set apart for God's work from the day he is born. The woman ran to tell her husband, Manoah. A man of God came to me. He told me we would have a child. Manoah prayed, "Lord, please send him again. We want to raise this child the way you want." So the angel came again. This time, Manoah was there too. They listened carefully. The angel said, "This child must never drink wine, never eat anything unclean, and his hair must never be cut. He will begin to rescue Israel from the Philistines." Then the angel rose up in the flames of the altar, whoosh, and disappeared into the sky. Manoah and his wife fell to the ground in awe. They knew God was doing something big. And sure enough, the woman had a baby boy. She smiled as she held him in her arms. His little curls bounced as he laughed. She named him Samson. God sees us, even before we're born. Samson grew up strong, very strong, stronger than any boy in his village, stronger than even the biggest men. When other boys lifted small stones, Samson lifted boulders. When they ran, he raced the wind. And when animals came near the farm, Samson didn't run away. He chased them off. Everyone in town whispered, "Have you seen that boy? His arms are like tree trunks. That's no ordinary child." But it wasn't muscles or food that made Samson strong. No. It was the Spirit of the Lord. God's power would come upon him like a fire inside. It gave him strength beyond human strength, because God had a plan. You see, the Philistines were still in control. They bullied God's people and made them feel weak. But Samson was chosen to begin saving Israel. His parents reminded him, "Samson, you belong to God. Never forget who you are." And Samson listened, most of the time. But as Samson grew older, something else grew inside him too. His own will. Sometimes he wanted what he wanted, not always what God wanted. And that would lead to trouble. But for now, Samson was full of joy, full of laughter, and full of the Lord's power. True strength comes from God, not from us. One day, Samson walked into a Philistine town. He saw something, or rather, someone. A beautiful young woman, a Philistine. Samson's heart raced. "I want her to be my wife," he told his parents. His mother's eyes widened. His father's brow furrowed. "Samson," they said gently, "she's not from our people. She doesn't worship the Lord." But Samson wouldn't listen. His muscles were strong, but his will even stronger. God had warned his people, not to marry those who didn't follow him. Not because God didn't want them to be happy, but because he wanted to protect their hearts. Still, Samson insisted, and so they began the journey to arrange the marriage. On the way, something terrifying happened. A lion jumped out from the vineyards. Roar! It charged at Samson, but the Spirit of the Lord rushed upon him, and with his bare hands, Samson tore the lion apart. Not with a sword, not with an army, just him and God's power. Later, when he passed by the lion's body, Samson noticed something strange. Bees buzzing inside the lion's body. They had made a hive, and there was honey. Samson reached in and ate some. Sweet, sticky, golden honey. He even gave some to his parents, but didn't tell them where it came from. Why? Because Samson wasn't supposed to touch dead things. It was part of the Nazirite vow, part of the promise he had made to God. But Samson kept it secret. He told no one. That's the thing about going your own way. At first, it looks fun. It feels exciting. But slowly, quietly, we start stepping away from God. One little choice at a time. Disobedience often begins in secret, but God still sees and still cares. Soon, it was time for Samson's wedding feast. The Philistines came to celebrate, 30 strong young men, all dressed in fine robes, laughing and dancing. Samson had an idea, a clever riddle. Samson stood tall and smiled. "I'll give you a riddle," he said. "If you can solve it in 7 days, I'll give you 30 fine robes. But if you can't, you'll give me 30. The men laughed. "Let's hear it." Samson's eyes twinkled. Out of the eater came something to eat. Out of the strong came something sweet. The men looked at each other. What did that mean? They didn't know about the lion. They didn't know about the honey. They puzzled and guessed, but nothing made sense. Day after day passed. The men grew angry. They went to Samson's new wife and said, "Trick him, make him tell you, or we'll burn your house down," she cried. She begged Samson, "Tell me what it means. Don't you love me?" At first, Samson said nothing. But on the 7th day, tired of her pleading, he told her, and she told the men. They rushed to Samson and said, "What is sweeter than honey? What is stronger than a lion?" Samson's smile faded. He knew he'd been betrayed. His voice turned cold. "If you hadn't plowed with my heifer, you wouldn't have solved my riddle." Samson was furious. The Spirit of the Lord came upon him again, and he went out and struck down 30 Philistines in another town. Just to pay the debt, he stormed home to his father's house, leaving his wife behind. Samson's strength was great, but his anger burned hot, and his choices were leading him far from peace. When we stop listening to God, we start hurting others and ourselves. Later, Samson returned to see his wife. But to his shock, she had been given to another man, his own best man. Samson's heart filled with pain, and then with burning anger. He went into the fields and caught 300 foxes. Yes, 300. He tied them together, tail to tail,
and placed a burning torch between each pair. Then he let them loose, racing through the Philistines' grain fields, vineyards, and olive groves. Flames roared as the foxes ran.
Fields turned to smoke.
The harvest gone. The Philistines were furious. "Who did this?" they cried.
Someone answered, "It was Samson, because his wife was given away."
So they did something terrible. They burned his wife and her father with fire.
Samson was heartbroken and furious again.
"If this is what you do," he said, "I won't stop until I get revenge." And he struck them with great force. Many Philistines fell that day.
Then Samson went and hid in a cave, alone, wounded in spirit,
and hunted by his enemies.
Revenge always feels powerful at first,
But it leaves behind more pain for everyone.
The Philistines gathered their army to capture Samson.
They marched into Judah, and the people of Judah were afraid. "Why are you attacking us?" they asked. "We've come for Samson," the Philistines replied. "He must pay for what he did."
So the men of Judah went to the cave where Samson was hiding.
"Samson, don't you know the Philistines rule over us? Why did you make them angry?"
Samson calmly said,
"I only did to them what they did to me." They said,
"We're here to tie you up and hand you over."
Samson answered, "Swear to me that you won't kill me yourselves." They agreed. So Samson let them tie him with 2 new ropes, and they brought him to the Philistines.
As the Philistines shouted in victory,
The Spirit of the Lord rushed upon Samson. The ropes on his arms became like melted wax. He broke free. Samson looked around and found the jawbone of a donkey. He picked it up and fought,
swinging with the strength of heaven.
That day, Samson struck down 1,000 Philistines with only a jawbone in his hand. When the battle was over, he threw the jawbone away and called the place Ramath-lehi, the hill of the jawbone. But Samson grew very thirsty and cried to God, "You gave me this victory. Will I now die of thirst?" God heard him. Water burst from the ground. Samson drank, and his strength returned. God was still with him, even in the wilderness, even when he felt alone. God doesn't just give strength for the battle. He gives strength for the quiet moments after.
Years passed. Samson judged Israel for 20 years.
But Samson had a weakness. He fell in love with a woman named Delilah from the valley of Sorek. The Philistine rulers saw a chance. They said to Delilah, "Find out the secret of Samson's great strength. We will each give you 1,100 pieces of silver."
So Delilah began her mission.
"Samson, tell me, what makes you so strong? How could someone tie you up and make you helpless?" Samson smiled and said, "If you tie me with 7 fresh bowstrings, I'll become as weak as any other man." That night she tied him while he slept, then called out, "Samson, the Philistines are here." Samson snapped the bowstrings like threads near fire. Delilah was furious, but she didn't give up. She tried again. "Samson, you lied to me. Tell me the real secret." He said, "If I'm tied with new ropes, I'll be helpless." She tied him again, but he broke free. A third time, she begged, "If you weave my hair into the loom and tighten it." Again, she called the Philistines. Again, Samson woke and tore it apart. Delilah grew desperate. "If you loved me, you would tell me the truth. You keep making fun of me." Day after day, she pressured him, until Samson's soul was worn down. And finally, he told her, "My hair has never been cut. I am a Nazirite set apart for God. If my hair is shaved, I will lose my strength." Delilah knew this was the truth. She sent word to the Philistines, "Come one more time. I have it." That night, Samson fell asleep in her lap. And as he slept, she shaved off his hair. Then she called out, "Samson, the Philistines are here." He awoke, but his strength was gone. The Lord had left him. The Philistines seized him, gouged out his eyes, and took him to prison in chains. Samson, the mighty warrior, was now blind and grinding grain in a prison mill. But something was happening. His hair began to grow back. Even in failure, God's plan wasn't finished. Samson was blind, broken, and humiliated. The mighty judge of Israel was now a prisoner in Gaza, grinding grain like an animal. But the Philistines didn't realize his hair was growing back, and so was something deeper. His faith. One day, the Philistine rulers held a great festival. "Bring out Samson," they shouted. "Let him entertain us." The crowds cheered. Thousands filled the temple of Dagon, the false god of the Philistines. There were 3,000 people on the roof alone, watching, laughing, mocking. Samson was led by a young servant. He whispered, "Put my hands on the pillars that hold up the temple, so I may lean against them." Then, with his hands resting on the two central pillars, Samson prayed, "Sovereign Lord, remember me. Please strengthen me just once more, so I may pay back the Philistines for what they did to my eyes." Then Samson pushed with all his might. The pillars cracked. The ground trembled. The massive temple collapsed, killing Samson and more Philistines than he had slain in his life. Samson died that day. But he died in faith, broken but bold, fallen but not forgotten. His family came to retrieve his body and buried him in the tomb of his father, Manoah. God can use even our weakest moments for His greatest victories. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this story, give us a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe for more amazing Bible stories every week. Tap the bell so you never miss one.